We are back on Louder Live. Today we're gonna be having a session with Faiza Rammuny. I think I said it right. On Instagram, on Facebook, known as Expired and Fabulous. She's surely fabulous and hilarious, but also very deep and a person who truly can get into topics that we all want to hear, especially here in the Arab world. So let's get in Faiza in 3, 2, 1. Faiza.
David.
How are you?
Oh,
I'm great. It's so good to have you here.
so nice to be here. I'm excited. I'm so excited to get into this conversation. It is a very timely time to do this, so thank you.
Thank you for being with us. We know that times in Chicago right now are not so great, but we're so privileged to have you on to talk about many different things today and diving deep and loud into your inner thoughts and many questions that few people have for you and myself have for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna dive in deep, straight up. Let's do it. I think we're experiencing a bit of sound issues. So I guess when I'm speaking, I don't know how it's receiving to the other side, but let's see. So Faiza, what does it mean to live your truth?
It means being willing to be the bad guy, the bad one, the bad kid, the rebel, the outcast. It means being okay not being accepted. Not being accepted. At the core of what it is, that's what it is. The acceptance that you will not always be liked, that you will not always be understood, but you have to stand in your truth. That's what it is.
I love that. I love that you said you got to be the bad guy and to accept that. That's so true. And when did you decide to live your truth? What was your turning point?
My turning point was almost forced in a sense. I feel like I was always looking for truth. I was always asking questions, and it came down to after my first ever relationship had ended, and my ex had put my reputation out there, and the community had, in a sense, ostracized me. And they didn't say, get out. They weren't like, get the fuck out of here. It was actions. Actions, spoke much louder than words. The gossip, the reputation destroying. It put me in a position where I had one choice. Do you either lay down and you deal with this, or you speak up? And speaking up was the only thing that I could do. It was the only way that I felt I could be heard. And I needed to know I wasn't alone. So that journey started for me out of necessity. I don't know if I would have been able to really live my truth had I not fallen as hard as I did. So my truth came because it was forced to come. And I think that that's what happens when you're pushed to a limit, when you push to a degree where enough is enough,
100%. And did you feel any sort of, did the change did you feel discomfort when you were going through that change from transitioning? And how did you deal with that discomfort and change?
Absolutely, on every level, in every way, to every degree. But you have to understand that every journey is a moment for you to look at yourself. You have to. It's a constant evaluation of yourself and the people around you. Sometimes your family, it's not just your community, it's your family, it's the people you call your friends. It's a constant evaluation of your world, and the people around you. So I had to find myself being okay, not being okay. Having days where things were not okay. And there were days where I was very broken, and there were days where I was very sad and felt very hopeless and felt very just confused and conflicted. And I had to accept that the good emotions came as much as the bad ones, and you had to feel through both of them to find yourself. That's what I had to do, constantly evaluate me, find me throughout it, ask the right questions.
And what were your biggest fears or challenges going through that?
Oh, the culture, the community, the faith, the people within it. And I say the faith in the sense of not in any way, shape, or form tagging the Muslims with the faith. Islam is perfect, Muslims are not. And I think that I found myself extremely conflicted, and constantly battling ups and downs, whether what I was doing was right or wrong, because of the cultural aspect of it, the part of the community. It was very loud because they're out to discredit you as a woman, make you immoral, indecent. I mean, they attack you where it hurts, and its reputation. So that was very hard to have every day new things being talked about you, so many untruths said, and there's nothing that you can do because they're just so loud. So you almost find yourself accepting that people are going to talk, and people are going to say what they're going to say, and they're going to want to do this, and their goals are very different. You have to stay focused on your own. It's not easy, girl. It's not fucking easy. And I say this to clients all the time, because sometimes people will get on a call and they're like, okay, let's do this. Let's fix everything today. It's like, bitch, it's not going to happen. It's a one-time call. That's not going to happen. You have to, this is a process. It's a daily, every single day you have to be working on yourself. And the voices will be loud. You got to be louder internally with yourself.
Louder. 100%. I agree with you. And did you experience some sort of anxiety going through that journey? And how did you deal with that?
Absolutely. When I went through my journey, I was, for those who don't know, I ended up suffering like a nervous breakdown. I just was too loud. I couldn't take it. I ended up suffering a nervous breakdown, being hospitalized, diagnosed with PTSD, depression, and anxiety disorder. And it was very loud. I was facing a lot of internal and mental struggles. And so the anxiety was very high because it was on so many different, in so many different areas of my life, and finding the triggers are what saved me in many ways. Getting help. Of course, getting help. You got to get help. In our culture, we don't even talk about mental illness. It's like it doesn't even exist. It's like, well, if you're feeling that way, just turn to Allah. It's like, yeah, okay, well, that's why He made mental health facilities, so we can turn to other people to get some help, right? Okay, So I understand that, mental illness is very real in our communities. And I think that what I did is I stopped running from that, right? Running from, this is not true. It's not there. It's our faith. Just pray 2 more rakats, you'll be fine. It's like, yep, I feel the same. Nothing's changing. So I stopped running. I started looking. I had no choice. I had to look. I'm like, I'm feeling this. What do I do? So I sought help, professional help. And then afterwards, I had to do it on my own. I had to ask myself the questions and not allow the outside voices to fucking come in and distract too much, because they will. That's what they're there for.
100%. And when you say you looked for help, can you talk to us about that journey of help that you got? What kind of help helped you in your mental illness?
I was, as I said, I was hospitalized. So when I was, girl, I did not have, it was not something I expected to happen in the first place. I mean, everything happened so quickly. I found myself very desperate. So I had to sign myself into the hospital, and because I didn't want, obviously, the court to do it and go through all that journey, because it would be much harder to get out at that point. So I signed myself willingly in, and that's the part where, I had help available. You know what I mean? So it's not like, I don't know if I would have sought it myself, but I'm a high encourager of go find, because, it was given to me by the sense that I did go see my therapist, and there was a moment that she recognized I needed help. And so she made that decision for me. So you got to help yourself. You got to put yourself in a position to get help. Recognize that what you're feeling is not, if you ever get to a point you feel just helpless, you got to get help. So I did get help. I was on medication for quite some time. And then I lost, as I said, I didn't have insurance. So I couldn't even get medication afterwards. I was in a position where I was dealing with deep anxiety, PTSD, severe depression, and I had no access to any sort of medicine, no help, nothing. And that's the moment where I turned to God. I turned spiritually, and I really did. I turned deep, and I asked Allah, I surrendered myself. I surrendered myself at a moment where I lost everything. I had surrendered myself to, I have to lose control. I have to let go of trying to control whatever's happening in my life, whatever I'm feeling. I'm trying to control this. I have to let go. I can't control this. I have to surrender right now. And I did. And then surrendering, I can't explain it other than I found a strength that until today drives me, you know? So yes, we got to get comfortable with the G word, that there is a spiritual power out there that if we surrender ourselves to it, holds a very great, extreme, sorry to sound repetitive again, but power within all of us to do great things. So yes, that's what helped me through.
That's beautiful, and I truly resonate with that. The G word is a big one.
It is, yes.
So after going through that journey and finding yourself on the other side, what does happiness mean to you today, and how do you continue to achieve it?
Imperfection. That's happiness. Happiness is understanding that life is not perfect. You know, we're not perfect. We're not meant to look perfect. We're not meant to be perfect. We are flawed beings. The acceptance of that opens us up to a whole new world. Okay, I'm imperfect. I am learning every day. Even through the current climate that the world is in right now, I'm learning every single day. You know, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to understand I don't have all the answers. I don't have to look a certain way. If I'm okay with it, it shouldn't fucking matter to anybody else. I'm the one walking around with my face, with my body, with my fucking ass and stuff. It's me. So, and the acceptance that I don't care to be what other people consider to be perfect. I'm imperfectly perfect and happy that way. So that's where I found strength.
And what does happiness mean to you today?
Well, happiness is the acceptance of that. The happiness is the acceptance of just living vicariously through yourself, you know, not through other people, you know, not through some other people's experiences. How I'm going to live vicariously through that person's relationship, and that living vicariously through yourself.
So it's accepting yourself the way you are, the way you come, and to continue learn through
That's it. Being unflawed and being happy as you. Happiness is, people want to find this big dissection to what happiness is, but what is it? And where does it go? And how do we find it? And what direction do we look for it? Well, here, this is where you look for it. The acceptance of yourself. The moment that you say, okay, well, I'm not trying to feed societies. And happiness is that, the acceptance that you are you. Period. There is no, you don't need to explain it. You know, people, those who like you will be in your life. Those that don't. The mission that you do is all in pursuit of yourself. Happiness is that, being you, being unflawed and being happy with that. Because we live in a world that tells you have to be something that you are not, and you don't have to be. You can be your own fucking self. That's happiness. Being you, all of you. No excuses, no justifying, well, let me explain why. Nobody gives a shit. You don't like me? Move along. I'm not harming anybody. I'm not bringing any discomfort into your life, not draining your bank account. Who gives a shit? Go along, you know? That's happiness. Giving a fuck, really. Just being you.
Yeah, and it's, I feel it also adds to appreciating the little things in life, resonating to the little things in life.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. I feel like that my answer has a trickle, like sort of kind of like a trickle effect, in the sense that you are a happier, better, more, you know, empathetic human being when you are happy with yourself. You know, so happiness is with yourself. You have to find it here and accept every bit of you, your ugly past, maybe your present, and wash it away to a better future, to find and love yourself. That's how, of course, it has a ripple effect to how we treat other people and how we treat the world, animals, the environment, everything. So happiness is simplistic. It's loving yourself. That's what happiness is. Loving you and being okay with you as you are through your journey of life, you know?
I hear you. Rawan Hamoud is asking, just before we move along, how do you deal with stress?
By dealing with it. You cannot, and we talked about this earlier, kind of like running, that I spent so much of my life running from my problems and running from the emotions that I was facing, which is that you got to deal with it. The stresses that you're facing, some of it can feel overwhelming. And I think that rather what we do is with the overwhelmingness, when it gets too overwhelming, is the moment where, well, how can I de-stress at this moment? I think first, feel your emotions. And number two, find ways that you feel empowered. The reason that we feel stress is because we feel that we've lost our power in a situation, whether we've lost our voice, we've lost our ability to feel we're getting in direction of our life, the career we want to pursue, whatever it might be. The stresses are based because we think we've lost our power. So find something you feel empowered with at that moment. Put on a piece of music that you can dance to in your room. You can't dance because you're sharing a room with your sister or your sisters. Fucking go to the closet or go outside or go for a walk. Do something to find yourself completely in power with you. Something that makes you feel light, makes you feel like, I'm always for fresh air. Get the fuck out. Go for a walk. Air helps us more than we think. We are so glued to this that we don't even get the fuck out of the house. So getting out to de-stress. Find ways to feel empowered.
And moving on with our conversation, you mentioned something around happiness and accepting yourself brings you to be more empathetic with yourself, with the world, with people, and so on. What does empathy mean to you, and how can people... First, what does empathy mean to you, and how do you practice it?
Oh, empathy to me is connection. Empathy is the ability to understand that you may not always get it, and you may not have been able to experience something, but you are willing to listen. You know, empathy is the willingness to listen to all sides. And before you even make a decision, to listen to people with an open ear. I practice that every day in my job as a relationship advisor. I say this all the time. I have a job simply for listening. I've spent my whole life willing to listen. I have done this for 12 years now, and it's started by my ability to just sit and, you want to talk? Sure. What's wrong? What's going on? You want me to call a piece of shit for you? Sure. Anything to make someone know they're not alone. You know, I've always been that person. And in doing so, look, I created a career for myself simply to just listen. So that is what empathy is, the ability to connect with someone else. Even if you can't necessarily get it, you see them and you let them know they're not alone and they're heard and seen.
I feel you. And I also believe empathy is really putting yourself in someone else's shoes, even when you don't agree with them, even when you don't understand what they're going through, but and you know that maybe what they're going through is maybe pathetic in your perspective, or they can simply get over it. But being empathetic is understanding that this is their perception and you got to accept it and put yourself in their shoes and feel maybe their pain somehow.
Absolutely.
I think, yeah, and I think that resonates with what's happening today, for example, in the world, on your side, especially right now. Can you talk to us more about that and how you feel about what's going on today?
I love what you just said. I just want to like fucking give you a virtual like push, because that's how I just like show my excitement about something. I love that. It's very true. It's as I said, looking at somebody, listening, the simple art of listening, no judgment. And I think that's even, it resonates to the current climate. Listen to what's going on and really see, so many people who tell me that they'll say things like, well, all lives matter, and Arabs are going through things in this country too. And the systemic racism that exists in America today is directly towards Blacks, and it is something that we need to stop running from, and we need to use this opportunity to look at it and to really stop running. Let's face the reality. Change comes when we are willing enough to look at the problem, and we can't run from the problem. Empathy means sitting to listen to people and to hear what is going on in order to change it, to understand that just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I think that's oftentimes the problem. And that happens even within our communities, because Samira and Sufyan didn't go through it. Well, nobody did. It's like, who the fuck is talking? Why are your experience the encompass of this entire experience? So I think that, people who we need to understand this is happening, and it needs to end. And the way that we end it is by talking about it and understanding, being aware it exists, and talking about how to change it. It's a very scary time. And I will say, if the world is smart, they're paying attention. And they're paying attention that this is what happens when people say enough is enough. Enough of injustice, enough of being treated a certain way. This It's a time for more empathy, and we can learn this. We can learn this. We really can. We can teach ourselves to learn empathy again.
I think it's also very important to highlight that when we say Black Lives Matter, like you said, it does not mean that other lives don't matter. It just means that the focus today, or just today, or in this minute, is about this certain situation. I think it's also important to highlight that the bridge between both worlds, where you are today and where I am today, I think there should also be empathy there, because I don't think that we feel the way you're feeling today, despite the social media and all of these things, because we don't see it or witness it firsthand. And you don't feel what we feel on the other side, that we go through every day, with a lot of the wars that happen here, or our families being taken through these things, these experiences. I think empathy should be heightened there as well from both of these worlds. I don't feel there's a lot of conversation towards that matter.
I think that, the way the world is today is, as I said, empathy. We need empathy for everyone. We need to see the injustice in the world happening worldwide. This should be as I said, a wake-up call for what happens when people have had enough. That is what it needs to be. It needs to be a wake-up call that if we don't make changes and address the things that are happening now, because let's talk about even the racism that is happening here in the United States. It has a trickle effect in the Middle East as well. If we want to call a spade, it's out there too. And there's a lot of things in our culture that we need to racially fix as well. So this is a problem that is within the United States, but it does have a ripple effect out there. It does not take away the wars and injustices done, but we need to make change, and to say that it's not about prioritizing what change is more important, but this is something that is affecting our country, and we do need to absolutely focus on it. And I think, as I said, other countries need to pay attention, because this is not exclusively here. This country in many ways was founded on racism, but this has a ripple effect to the greater world as well. So I think that, yes, of course, and these things are awful and it needs to change. But we do need to start facing the realities of what's happening within our world, and how what's happening here can have a ripple effect if it's not treated elsewhere.
How can people become more empathetic or more compassionate towards others, especially others who they never have connected with? Let's say someone from this side of the world has grown up here, lived here, and never left to the other side of the world. The communication is not the same. I'm someone who was born and raised in Montreal, lived for 10 years, 11 years, lived in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for another 10 years, then moved to Dubai I can see the difference in communication, and there's a difference of understanding each other. And I can see that someone who's lived here all their life might have difficulty understanding someone else that has lived all their life in the States or Canada or wherever. How do you think someone like that can develop the skill of empathy and compassion when they have no idea?
I love this question. Connection, as I said, finding ways to connect. There are a lot of things that connect us. There are a lot of struggles that connect us on a human level. One of the many things I try to do through my work, especially through my comedy, was to show people that the issues that we face across this cultural, it doesn't matter what color your skin is, doesn't matter what culture you come from, doesn't matter, if we are all connected through our search for identity and understanding. So I think that there are a lot more things that connect us, and if we talk more about those things, we will find more ways to, yes, work on our empathy, to see one another, to not dismiss one another's experiences. That is I think is what disables change so much, that so many people want to come in like they know it all, and that's not happening. I've never seen that. That doesn't exist. Not true. Here it's different. There it's different. But it's real for everybody in where they're at. We have to listen to each other. If we dismiss people's experiences, then we've eliminated the ability to have the freedom of a voice, to be heard. It's hard to raise your voice. And when people do it, we need to listen. Not with judgment, not with criticism, not with a solution just yet. Fucking shut the fuck up and listen. Do you know how many times I will get on a call And I'll be like, listen, to a client, if you need me just to shut the fuck up and not come in, because many times in a session I'm like, well, what happened here and what happened there, why did they say this, why did they say that, because I'm always asking questions, dissecting a situation now, because that's how I understand it more, right? And sometimes I'm like, hey, if you want me to shut the fuck up and listen, I will. And they will say, Faiza, just shut up and just listen. I'm like, okay, done. And that is what we do. We will sit and listen, because some people just want to be heard. You know, they just want to be heard without you fix it right now or to have an opinion on it. Just shut up and listen. So we can work on our empathy by listening and finding ways in listening to connect, that there are greater things that connect us as a human race than anything. You know, we have to find those things.
I agree with you. I really think that our human connection is in, like you said, finding our identity and speaking louder and being more vulnerable and raw and true to ourselves. Before we continue, there's 2 questions I'd like to go through. Carla Saad is asking, is your mom character derived from your mom's actual behavior or funny scenarios that you made up?
Definitely from my aunt and my dad, Allah yarhamu. It's the both. And at the time when I was, gosh, it's so funny how it grew into what it is today, because it really came out of necessity. I couldn't draw on a beard to make my dad. And I was like, because my eczema, I have very, very bad eczema. It constantly flares up if I put makeup on my face. So it came out of necessity.
Eczema too on my face.
Girl, all over my chin and everything.
Oh,
It would aggravate, as you would probably understand. So I would actually, the mother's character came out of necessity, that I needed that. And then actually I recently tried to transition it to an aunt so that people could just understand more of who it's supposed to be. But no, my mom is not that marriage obsessed. Not more about like, you know, when you find the person, find the person. If you don't, sit home, just at least learn how to fucking cook. My mom is disgusted that I am awful. I am the worst. See, this is why she's not married. Like, you know.
like this is what makes you or breaks you. Another question. By Nadia, how do you deal with clients who find themselves in repetitive patterns, but they have the will to evolve?
Oh, that I let them evolve. I never step in the way. Have I stepped in the way? Maybe sometimes I've been a little bit like, don't do it, stupid, what's wrong with you? You know, but still, oh gosh, clients know this. I will let them go on their journey. They never have to apologize, because it's all about a journey. We go through our journey. Many times people find themselves in patterns. What I do try to do is through the patterns, stop them and let them focus on, do you realize how this is becoming something you're familiar with? Why? And I force them to ask themselves the questions that are deeper to get themselves the answers to possibly make better decisions. So, but I never like scold anybody for making their journey. Go through your journey, but be aware. Be aware. Learn from lessons. Otherwise, everything at that point is just a big waste of fucking time. Just going through things without learning something from it. You got to learn from your experiences.
So do you believe that to break a pattern, you must evaluate, since they're calling you, that means they know they have a pattern, right? So to break that pattern, that means they need to evaluate step by step what that pattern is to break it, or is there another way?
Correction. Not everybody is aware they have a pattern. I think that sometimes they realize that as we start talking. I could talk to somebody in one call and know whether or not they're a creature of some sort of pattern in their past, because it's about the questions you ask. I think that's why I push them. Ask yourself the questions. When you're in a situation, for example, where guys constantly flake on you, or they just ghost you after a while. They never really make an effort to meet. They never really make an effort it's a moment where you have to ask yourself, why are you constantly in a pattern of finding yourself connected to or attracted to guys who aren't investing as much as you're investing in it? And it usually goes back to a very broken relationship within the family home. primarily with a daughter and her father, which is the most important relationship a daughter will ever have in her life. It's the defining relationship. And also the relationship with just your parents, your upbringing, patterns. Our upbringing conditions us to believe certain things. That's where they're formed. So yes, no, sometimes they don't know they have a pattern, but when they're aware of it, that's when the greatest change happens. Yes, absolutely.
It's a beautiful evolution when you finally figure out your pattern and then finally figuring out how to break it. That is the highlight of my happiness.
I love that. I love that.
So Faiza, what are the milestones you have celebrated in your life?
Not enough, I will say. For the longest time, I didn't celebrate certain milestones. And I guess in a sense, what are milestones? Milestones in what we are told to celebrate are like what graduations, when you get married, when you got a home, you graduate from college, you have a kid, you buy your first house, I don't really know what the milestones I should have necessarily celebrated, but I think that for me, milestones are moments where I should have celebrated myself more, like where I achieved something. I never really celebrated myself for how far I came from the hardship I went through. I'm only doing that now. So I think that one of the things I didn't do is I didn't celebrate my growth enough. I didn't share enough of the hardships I was going through because I didn't want to be vulnerable. I did a disservice because it allows people to see how you grow. And that to me is a milestone, when you can look at yourself in the mirror and it's a different person. Those milestones I should have celebrated more, but I do it now.
That's beautiful. I really like the fact that you stated that first, like the things we should celebrate. But yeah, no, I'm not talking about those things, because clearly there's a rebel in Faiza, and these are not your milestones.
Definitely not my milestones. I mean, here's the thing. Will it ever be? I mean, Allahu Alam, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. None of us do. But currently, my milestones are my growth, like through this quarantine, through this current situation with the murder of George Floyd. And the, civil, what's happening here in America. It's a moment you look at yourself, and then I'm proud that I'm humble enough that I can see my growth. That to me those are milestones, soul growth, diving deep. Yes.
And wow, it just slipped my mind. I had a question for you there.
Every single day for me.
Allah. God knows what that was for. So Faiza, oh yeah, that's what it was. Maybe that's why I forgot it. I'm not sure you want to talk about it, but do you want to talk to us about vulnerability?
Oh yeah, let's talk about, what do you want to know about vulnerability?
Wait, just finish your lipstick. It's sexy.
Like this,
Very.
Good angle, What about vulnerability? Vulnerability, is it how hard it is? Because shit, it's hard. What exactly is it about vulnerability you want to know?
Your journey with vulnerability. How important is it? Did you find in your journey?
It is of the utmost importance. Okay, vulnerability is of the utmost importance. It is the only way we even can form empathy, our ability to be vulnerable, to share the not so pretty sides of us, the not so pretty feelings, the feelings that may make us feel uncomfortable. It is very important. Vulnerabilities is what put me in the position I am on social media. I mean, if it were not for my vulnerability and sharing my story with the world, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in today. I think that the ability to share our stories connects us. That is the reason that it's important. I myself lost that many times because I became, ashamed, embarrassed. You don't want to share certain things. You get afraid of sharing certain parts of you for people to judge or criticize. And I think that that's where it comes the I don't give a fuck attitude. Can't give a shit. People are going to have opinions. Put it out there, though. Put yourself out there. because someone needs you. You may not know it, but somebody out there fucking needs you to share that vulnerability. I'm proof of that. I'm a validation of that 388,000 people needed that vulnerability. So yeah, it's about, vulnerability is very important, and we got to do it with ourselves.
That's so beautiful. How did you manage to deal with people's hate comments and just overall judgment when you began being vulnerable on social media, considering the fact that you were going through anxiety and PTSD before, so that could be a huge trigger. So
yeah, it was very hard at times. I found myself many times with anxiety attacks. It was very difficult. I'm not going to paint it that it was an easy struggle. I'm not going to say that it was something that, oh, well, you know what, I just did this and it just changed. It was amazing. You know, it's like, no shit, that did not happen. It was a struggle. It was a daily struggle. What changed it was seeing my triggers, all right, understanding what my triggers were. A lot of my triggers were stemmed from the community, the opinion that people had of me. So I had to look at that. What was really bothering me here? And it was my constant need for validation from them. And the reason I say this is because I think it kind of just reiterates what I constantly say about asking yourself the question. Be unafraid to ask yourself those questions. I had to become what I needed in someone. I didn't have a me at this time. I needed a me. I had to become that person. So I had to constantly be asking myself, look in the mirror. What's wrong? What are you feeling? Why are you feeling this? What's happening? Is this real? What's real? What's not? Because, you know, when you have anxiety, everything's amplified, and everything, the most unrealistic things become very possible and very real. And it's like, you know, that shit's probably not going to happen, but your mind has made it very real. So what I did was I channeled the anger I had into wanting to do something with it. So I think it's about, you know, when it comes down to how do you handle all of that and the hatred people can spew, because, oh my God. And let me tell you, with Arabs, because Arabs never fucking stop talking, and everybody just, there's 10 million comments, you know, one Samira can come up with 3 million accounts she has, and she's posting comment after comment. It's like, don't you have a job, honey? So yes, it could be very difficult to hear that, and they come loud and they come really, just very amplified with their message, but you have to know you enough. You gotta be willing to know you enough to say, all right, but that's not true. Okay, but that's not, I don't feel that way. Look deep, ask yourself the questions. Don't make their thoughts your thoughts. Don't make their beliefs yours. How many times have people called me? I don't want to say, I think you already know what the S word I'm thinking about, but I can't say because I don't want you to have any problem over there. But it starts with a sh and ends with a ta.
Say it.
You know, like if somebody calls you a sharmuta online, people are suddenly like, goodness, it's so awful. Oh my God, it's like, now I'm like, shit, I don't give a fuck. Okay, what's the problem? Okay, Steven, you know, it's like, you just gotta understand that everyone's gonna have an opinion. And I feel like I'm going in a really long tangent here to say the thing that's really bottom line, but just everyone's gonna have an opinion, and you have to know you enough to be okay with saying, okay, who cares? Read the comments on my post. Read how many things people say. Doesn't bother me. I'm still going. I'm still posting. Doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form, because I know me. I know what I'm trying to do. I know what my message is. I know what I'm trying to say and what I want to change. And the people who see it. And the ones who don't. And I'm okay with either one.
That's beautiful. It really takes a lot of courage to get there, to get to that certain point, especially through the journey you've gone through.
Yeah, it does. But everybody can do it. That's what I think is, I'm not, so many times people say, oh, well, they'll draw me as like a superhero or some shit. And it's so flattering, and thank you. But I'm not a superhero. There's nothing superheroish about it. My superpower is my ability to be myself. That's everybody's superpower. You have it. Everybody on here has it. Everybody that'll watch this has it. It's about your fearlessness to just do it, to just be you and say, I don't give a shit. You think that? I don't give a fuck. Suck a dick. Sorry. Sorry. Well, I tried. I'm sorry. You can.
It's okay. Don't apologize. We got you.
Done, Who cares? Oh well, boring already.
Oh God, I love you. All right. So, talk to us about. So, wait, do you question your sanity ever?
Um, no, not anymore. I mean, so many people have questioned my sanity. I mean, I've been a Muslim the longest time. I don't really know, but I'm okay with that though. Hey, listen, it's the people that you think are crazy are the ones that actually have their shit together. So let me tell you, I'm okay with whatever people think is crazy because it just means that I'm seeing on a level that scares them, and I'm okay with that. So.
Do you have any challenges today trying to get to your dream or purpose?
Oh, my own internal, struggles in the sense that, everything. I only started living my life as me when I was 31 years old. Okay, I'm 35. I know I look great, everyone. Everyone smile. But I'm 35. I've only really lived as myself for a few years now. It hasn't been a long journey in the sense of being me and living authentically as myself. So I still have my cultural issues I deal with. I'm very involved in the community because most of my clients are musrab here in the States and overseas. So that is the predominance of my clientele. So I find myself very conflicted, knowing that you talked about it earlier, the differences on how things are treated there versus here. There's a lot of things that connect our struggle, but there are a lot of very different aspects and layers to it that are very different. So it's more of that. I do find myself always wanting to make sure that I stand in the right, that I am standing for those who are not spoken, and making sure to always do it in a way that gets the message across. Do you know what I mean? So that is something I do. It's not a struggle, but it is something I'm constantly cognizant of.
I want to talk about something very sensitive, especially in the Muslim Arab community. What is the advice you can give, or do you have clients from the LGBTQ community, and what is the confusion there? Where do you stand? How do you tackle it in the community and for religion?
I commend you for being someone to ask this question because it needs to be asked more often. I have many clients in the LGBTQ plus community, and the first struggle they face is not feeling Muslim. They don't identify as a Muslim anymore, and that is because people see them as that they're not. And one of the first things I will always do is remind them that they are Muslim, and that I highly support the LGBTQ plus community, Muslim or not. And I think that being Muslim, not in any way, shape, or form a detachment from what you identify as. What we identify as is who we identify as. I believe that God makes no mistakes. I believe that in order for us to think that there's something wrong with the LGBTQ plus community, we would have to question God and how God creates people, because the problem is people think it's a choice. They've chosen to be this way. So it's a choice. Well, you can change your decision. That's not true. That's not true. I've spoken to a great many people who would very much argue this. People, what you identify as, whether that's you see that now or later on, is what you identify as. And I think that we need to have more support and remind our Muslim brothers and sisters from the LGBTQ plus community that they are still Muslim, and they are wanted, and they are heard, and they are seen, and they are valued. And I would much rather them fucking be in the faith than to leave it and hold resentment for people who don't really know how to properly preach it. So that's my opinion on the LGBTQ plus community. I think we need to have more support for them. That's what I think.
Thank you for your answer. I think there's a lot that would argue whether it is Muslim or not Muslim. I believe that whether it's Muslim or not Muslim, we should not judge. I think this goes back into being empathetic. Whether you want to resonate it to Black Lives Matter or the LGBTQ community or any kind of community that is not like yourself, everyone should be empathetic towards any human being, whether you understand their situation or not, whether you think it's Muslim or not. Maybe in your world it's not Muslim, and that's okay. That's fine, and that's not wrong. Maybe you're right. But in my world, or in someone else's world, or in Faiza's world, maybe they think otherwise. So what is it to you? If you are being Muslim enough, and if you are being great with God, and you have that straight line connection, what is it to you? I think this to me is my problem with the lack of acceptance of it. There's a lot of reasons why it's not accepted. I don't want to go in deeper, but I just do think practicing empathy is something that is very crucial when it comes to many communities and to yourself.
Yes, love what you just said. And I think if I can just kind of piggyback off of that, or rather just add to it, I think that you don't want to dive deep, but I'm going to dive deep to say this simple thing, okay? Really what it comes down to, it comes a war of verses, right? That's what it ultimately comes down to. People wanting to argue Quranic verses here or there. At the end of the day, what God asks for in each Muslim, right, is to be a good person, to be a good person with yourself, to have a good connection with you and your inner self, because when we are connected to ourselves, we serve God, right? Because in serving ourselves, we help serve others. We bring about light and goodness. And we also, and in Surah Al-Ikhlas, it talks very clearly, even when it says, "Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun," right? This can be an extension very much to this situation, which is about leave people to their thoughts and their beliefs. If they are not bringing harm to you, you bring no harm to them. If they are not bothering you, you don't bother them. Their beliefs are theirs, yours are yours. Leave them alone. You know, and I think that needs to extend to the greater Muslim world. You know, and everybody can talk about the whole sodomy thing, but with all due respect, since there are straight Muslims in this world that take it from the ass, let's just shut up about the conversation, shall we? Because I'm so tired of hearing that. Well, it's a sodomy, it's a sodomy. Well, you know, Hussein, I could have sworn like you were doing some things you shouldn't have been doing either. So let's just, you know, so I'm sorry, but let's just be the space. Like, no, I mean, that's a whole conversation in itself. And, but yeah.
It is.
Someone had to say it. It's like, this is haram. Sir, why are you bent over? No?
Okay.
Or when the Samira is saying, this is disgusting. Why are you walking like that, honey? Like,
yeah, it's a long conversation, but yeah, empathy, compassion.
Yes, empathy. Let me tell you something. Here's the thing. Even in that, let's take the joke aside. If we want to entertain it as a joke, right? Even in that, okay, are we not connected in that? Can we not find some sort of connection? Let's just make we have to find ways to connect with each other, to find ways that make us want to not, to make us look at each other and see, oh, I can recognize that in that person. I can relate to that. I can connect with that in some way. That's what we need to do. Find ways to connect. Stop judging. Stop putting people out and outcasting who's right, who's wrong. Let's just look at each other as human fucking beings. That's what we need to do.
Yes. Just so we don't get any backlash on this, especially from this side of the world. So to clarify, what I'm really stating here is whether LGBTQ community is right or wrong in the Muslim world. It could be wrong, it could be right. And let's just say it's wrong, completely wrong, okay? Let's just put it that way. What we're preaching here is Islam teaches you to mind your own business.
Mm-hmm.
Islam teaches you to focus on yourself. Mm-hmm. So whether it's right or wrong, you're doing wrong by getting into someone else's business and someone else's private business. This is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to make any kind of feud or whatever, but this is clarity into if Islam teaches us peace and minding our own business and doing good, then this is what we should be practicing and doing. And yeah, that's that.
Let me add on that. Yes, you're right. And I agree. And I think, girl, let me tell you something. People will always misconstrue what they want because this is a very taboo subject in the Muslim world. That's the truth. But here at the end, I'm with you. what it is acceptance. Islam, I feel like in many ways, was one of the first faiths that really was about just mind your business, leave people to themselves. If you want to go to talk to somebody, do it privately where nobody can hear it. You're by yourself, nothing, and everything's about intention. You don't know what somebody's intention is. You're not gay, straight. What does it matter? You don't know what someone's intentions are. You don't know what their connection to their faith is. You don't know what kind of person they are, the good they do. Why are you involving yourself in it because you want to make this an LGBTQ plus? No, we're Muslim. Period. So you asked me earlier, what do I tell my LGBTQ plus community clients who are in the Muslim community? You're a Muslim. Period. Remember that always. Be in the faith, because the faith, I believe at the core of it, there's so much love. There's so much love and acceptance. We as a people need to project that better, because that's how we represent our faith well. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah. So there's a few questions that I received through email, around 5 questions about relationships. I'm just going through here. Okay, so the questions. We're going to go through the questions, the relationship questions that we received by email. First question. What are the aspects you'd need to know before diving into a relationship?
The questions you need to know, number one, is find out what this person's interests are and how compatible you two are. I think that many times people seek, or like they look at somebody, oh, he's physically attractive, I just want to go, he has money, he has this, he has that. Look at a person's compatibility. What makes you two compatible will outlive your relationship, and it will make you have a long-lasting one. So find the things that are compatible. I think that when I talk about compatibility, at the top of that, I also want to stress spiritually. That is a very important thing. How you two connect spiritually, whether Muslim or not, how do you two connect spiritually? Spiritual compatibility is very important. Intellectual compatibility is important. These types of things. So compatibility has layers. You want to look for all of those, how you connect on every layer, intellectually, as I said, spiritually, emotionally. Yeah.
I'm just gonna add to that question.
Oh.
Do you, if someone from the Muslim community wants to marry a non-Muslim, what is your take on that?
I'm actually doing a podcast episode for that, so people can get a little bit more than I can actually discuss here, because otherwise we'd be on here for an hour more, and it's girl, you're gonna be like, girl, shut the fuck up. But I will say that I'm rooting for these types of relationships. I have a lot of clients in interfaith relationships who struggle a lot through the journey, whether married or not, married, dating, engaged. And I think that it comes down to a deep understanding of what you're signing up for. Always keeping your identity, knowing who you are before you step into that relationship, not allowing yourself to be altered because you want to please your partner. You need to know who you are and be stand very firmly on that. Our partners should change. Yeah, our partners can change us as we grow in a relationship, but you have to be the one to want to see that change in the direction of that you're comfortable with. And I think oftentimes the reason interfaith relationships don't work is because people don't recognize themselves later on. And I'll go a step further to say it's the women who don't recognize themselves later on. Guys are fine. It's the women who tend to lose their identities. So I think know yourself before you get into that, any type of relationship. But if you know you can make it work. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Sometimes, let's read the long one so we can get on with it. How can I accept that my boyfriend broke up with me multiple times because of our different cultural backgrounds? I'm a 23-year-old Turkish girl. He's a 25-year-old Arab guy. I really loved him, still do, but he always pushes me away. My Turkish parents fully accepted him. His parents haven't. They've been together for 1.5 years, and he broke up with me again because of this reason. I can't understand how he could throw away our relationship because of a national background. He only sees the differences. I see the acceptance, so doesn't think that I'm worthy enough for him to fight for our relationship. He doesn't think I'm worthy enough. Would love your advice.
These types of situations, unfortunately, are very common. And I will say, just let the fucker go in the nicest way. That's the hard truth, because here's the sad truth, the sad reality, or I can actually even extend it to the hard truth of these types of situations. I'm sure you've heard it, this saying that like Arab guys, no matter how many times they date out, they're always going to go back to a girl, married within their culture, right? This is unfortunately, in many ways, this is very true when the guy is worried more about his family's opinions on who he marries and not, more than he cares about himself. If you notice early on that this person is not going to talk to their family, you don't even want to let it to get to 1.5 years. You don't want it to get, let alone to even another month, once he tells you that his family doesn't accept it. Because if he's adamant on that, he's not going to change his mind or fight his family on a reality he's putting out. And that's why he was so inconsistent. So for her wanting to understand why he's inconsistent, because he lives in that dream world of maybe it'll work, maybe it can't, maybe I can get them to figure it out, but it doesn't really bring about any change. It usually ends like this. So the only thing you can do now is to heal, go through your emotions, understand closure is the thing that you want to seek most. And I think in a moment like this, the closure you need is understanding this is someone who is going to, he's a people pleaser. He's a yes man with his family. And that's not a testament to you, or that doesn't make you worth fighting. He's not going to fight for himself. He's not fighting for himself to fight for you. So it's not you, it's him. And find somebody that will see the similarities that you so adamantly see and are beautiful. Find someone who connects with you like that, rather than somebody who's going to fight you the rest of your life, about that kind of shit. And imagine getting into that family. Oh, pew. Oh my God. Can you imagine them like dealing with like the Arab mom always, oh, you don't know how to cook. It's like, man, go home. It's, it wouldn't work. It would have been a mess. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, she didn't ask for my advice, but I think she should definitely go. All right.
It's hard for human beings to let go, and especially I've seen this very much, especially within our communities, because we don't even want to let go of our cultural thoughts or beliefs. Even letting go of that is very hard. But I get it's hard letting go, but sometimes letting go is the best thing to do.
I think sometimes love, we confuse love with attachment and maybe a bit of childhood trauma, I could say. So in my belief, I feel like sometimes our partners, we end up filling that void with our partner. And we confuse it with love, and love is not supposed to be that.
Love is not supposed to hurt. Love is not supposed to be demeaning, disrespectful, to devalue you, nothing like that. And we tend to learn that because of what we're conditioned to believe by our upbringing. Yeah, it's sad. But once you can break that cycle, you can find better love.
So next question, I have been facing my demons and childhood traumas. My traumas are revolved around my perception of men being negative due to situations that happened to me growing up. But I faced them, confronted them, and accepted them. I am currently trying to move forward, but I'm still struggling as my perception at times moves back and forth between the past perception and the new. Do you have any advice for my forward-facing journey, as I met someone and I don't know how to move forth?
Well, I think that if you are going to purge your past, you have to purge your past. If your past still is so heavy in your present that it makes you fear even getting into a relationship, then you haven't fully flushed that past, because you're allowing that fear to dictate your present situation and your decision. So I think that how you do it is eliminate the fear. Try your very best to eliminate the fear that you're that this guy's going to be another piece of shit, and he's probably going to break your heart, and he's probably going to do this and that. You have to believe that your growth was enough to show you that to look for better things. Look out for better signs. We just said this. When you see the signs early on, that's when you should probably leave, right? If he tells you something early and you see the moments, oh God, the fuckboy alert is going off real big. Well, chances are you should probably let him go. I think that don't excuse the inexcusable. So eliminate the fear, and then go into the relationship with not excusing the inexcusable. If you know something's wrong, you have grown enough to know and recognize something is not wrong. Something doesn't make you feel good. Something doesn't make you feel empowered. So therefore, I should probably leave that situation. Fear is what will get you afraid to either get into a relationship or ever leave a relationship. So you have to eliminate the fear and have some hope. Have some hope that you've woken up enough that you can look out for the differences between a man and a little boy, you know?
So mainly trusting in your growth, trusting in yourself.
Absolutely.
Another question. Why am I never satisfied, always looking for better, and judgmental towards my partners?
Very good question. That is one of those moments. If we were on a, would be, well, let's go back. I'd want to know so much about where this evolves. You know, I think that even in the current climate, people were talking about, and that this is so true, that racism is not, you know, not something you're born with, it's something you're taught. And I think that we have to understand that thoughts go into that as well. All the thoughts and the feelings we feel and the actions we speak on are things that we've been conditioned to believe. We've been taught these things. So what is making you feel that way? What does your past relationships look like? What has your life been like? Have you seen your parents fight a lot? Are your parents even together? Are you feeling like unresolved residual shit from past breakups? What is it? This comes from someplace. And if you know that you are not in a place to be in a relationship, you probably should just not be in a relationship and be single and work on your fucking self, because it's for your benefit. Not just so I can get into a relationship. It's so that you can get into a healthy relationship. That's what the working on yourself is for. The detachment so that you can get into a healthy relationship. So I would say work on you. Take some time to look back, to ask yourself what you're feeling and why. This doesn't just come out of nowhere. And the amount of times I have to tell people, well, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. It just came out of no. It's from someplace. Something sparked this. Something made you have that residual shit pop up, made you put up the barriers. What is it? You have to understand that and be willing to get the answers so you can know what navigation to lead to. That's where you start.
Do you think that for you to eliminate these things or to realize these things, it's healthy to get in a relationship? And when these things come up, to address them within your relationship? Or do you believe that if you're having such issues, you shouldn't be in a relationship?
I fucking love this question, because this is something that I think is so important to discuss. And I think that leads to the level of toxicity within ourselves. This is the moment where you have to look at you. If you feel like you are getting into a relationship and you're monitoring where this person's going, what they're doing, how they're acting, and you find yourself losing touch with you, then you're probably not ready for a relationship and you need to take some time to be single. But if you're getting into one and naturally your guard might be up and you find yourself maybe not sharing too much, not opening up too much just yet, I don't really see a problem with that, because I actually think that women should date that way. I think that you need to be an onion and you need to peel away in layers. You shouldn't give too much too soon, because you just never know what a person's intentions are. And some people are really good at hiding their monsters, and you don't know. So you might be sharing with someone who's going to use that to their advantage or against you or whatever, but you don't share too much too soon. Take time to open up. Trust your judgment as a person earns it. You know, let a person earn your trust, your time, your body, your energy, everything. They have to earn it. Don't just give anything like that away at all. You know, value that.
Yeah. 2 more questions, and then we have one here in the chat. Sometimes I feel my boyfriend is ill-intentioned, can't be trusted, or has a hidden agenda. But I worry that I'm projecting my trust issues onto our relationship. Is there any advice?
I love that she's looking internally. I love that. I love that has eliminated the pride, and because this is exactly what I do with clients. That is the ideal situation where somebody's willing to remove the barrier and say, I don't know if it's me. That's important, to humble yourself, to look at yourself, because we're not perfect, you know. But I do think that you need to balance that. There's a fine line between self-blame and putting everything on yourself so you don't have to look at your partner, versus really self-reflecting. So I think that at a moment like this, I would tell you or her to ask yourself what it is about you. What would you be feeling? For example, if somebody says, I'm feeling this way, I'd say, well, what is it exactly? Well, I really don't trust my partner because I've been cheated on many times. So sometimes I do often check his phone or ask him for his phone or what he's doing. Well, then you realize it's a problem internally, right? Is your partner making you feel this way? Are they doing anything, not answering your calls, making you feel like you have to work for their attention? Those types of things, I'd say, let that partner go. What the fuck is that? Goodbye. Because here's the thing, you shouldn't have to overwork for someone. Let work together, but you more, women invest emotionally deeply, sometimes rather quickly, and we sometimes can't control that because this is how naturally we're made, but we have to choose who we share it with so it's not used against us, or you don't find yourself bitter and jaded from the experience of just getting into a relationship just for the sake of being in one and then finding yourself into a pattern of shitty relationships. So I do think that it's about, ask yourself what you're feeling. What are you feeling and why? Oh, I'm feeling this way probably because of my past. All right, then you need to work on that. But if it's that he is being passive aggressive, mind fucking you, posting things in order to thirst trap people and not respecting or valuing your relationship, honey, let him go. Oh my God. Oh, it's just save your energy, save your time, save your soul, save yourself the pounds, or just save yourself,
just get out.
Get out now.
So last question from the emails. Oh shit. Okay, there. My partner and I don't share the same. I think it's what we answered, kind of. My partner and I don't share the same religious views, but we love each other and respect one another. I'm just afraid that this will affect us on the long run. What do you think?
I'm good. Yes. I'm glad you're thinking this because that's important. We talked about looking at being aware of the reality of what you're signing up for. I think interfaith relationships present an issue with more than likely in the 12 years I've been a relationship advisor, what I've seen more often than not is the woman lose her identity, look in the mirror a few years later and not recognize who she sees looking back because she has lost. Yes, you're spiritual, and that's good. And you guys have spiritual connection, but you want to make sure that you're thinking about children. What's going to happen when you have kids? Do you want your kids to be raised Muslim? Do you want your kids to be raised according to his faith? Is he Christian? Is he Jewish? Are you going to have little Juzlums, little Krishlams? What are you going to have hanging around the house? So you need to know what are you going to have your children identify with? And I think that it's not about assigning something to your kids, but rather children come into this world unknown. And do you know how many kids I speak to today who have identity crisis because they come from interfaith relationships and nothing was asserted for them because they just grew up in a house where it was fighting about this, your faith is this, your faith is that, nobody likes you guys are monsters. So you got to think about these things. Not to say that that's going to be the future of this particular relationship or anyone for that matter, but more so it's evaluated. Ask yourself, where do you guys want to see yourselves? If you get married, how do you want to get married? Are you going to find an interfaith sheikh? Because yeah, you can go to California and do that, but at the end of the day, your family's not going to be there. Are you going to be okay with that? Are you going to be okay that your family might not want to be involved? Are you okay that he's going to become your everything and your family might ostracize you? You have to think about these things. It's a sad, hard truth, but the only way to ever ask yourself if it can work is by looking at what you need to make it work. So you gotta look at yourself and ask the questions that are going to build your future together.
If whoever was asking that, just hypothetically speaking, was from the LGBTQ community, would you have advised them the same thing?
No, it's very different because you're facing two different battles as well.
But not concerning faith, concerning the topic of family and all that.
The topic of, well, it's a different, the way it's even presented is very different. So let's say somebody in the LGBTQ, what I've often had happen is they meet somebody, but they're not looking necessarily for marriage at this point. They're looking for a relationship. So it depends on what you're looking for. I haven't had many LGBTQ plus clients go towards even marriage yet because they're still struggling with the identity crisis. So it's a very different struggle. There are very different layers to each journey. I think that what the commonality in the two is the search for identity, to search to be true to yourself and to claim who you love no matter what. Absolutely. That's the common background they have, love who you love, because if you love who you love, you love who you love. However, in an interfaith relationship, the difference is that these are two people that are like identified, I want to get married, I want to move on. They're not yet still trying to figure themselves out. And that's not the unfortunate situation my LGBTQ clients in the Muslim community are in. This, I need to figure out myself and get like my family's acceptance. When it comes to two people identifying they want to get married, that's a very different story at that point. I've had many people get on the phone like, all right, well, next week I'm going to the sheikh and we're going to do this, and you know, it's going to be fine and my family's not going to be involved, but we'll tell them later. It's like, wait, whoa, hold on a second there. Think for a moment. And they stop and take a moment, give it a few months, and then they realize later on they get into an argument and their faiths are thrown at each other as ammunition against one another. So no, what I say is a very much, I say this directly to interfaith couples because it's directly for interfaith couples. You have to think about this layer because this is a common problem within these types of relationships.
Okay, got you. Rawan Hamoud, what do you like and hate the most about being a relationship advisor? So what do you like the most, hate the most?
No hate. Disliked the amount of time it took out of my life, in the sense that I used to do sessions 5 to 6, sometimes 7, I'd go to work every single day because there were so many more people who wanted to talk. So I found myself wanting to meet demand. That became difficult. I love every part of my job. I have no hate in it at all. I am blessed to say I don't even call it a job. I hate saying it is a job, but it is, just so people know my job is a relationship advisor, but it's not a job to me. It is a passion. I love doing what I do. I love meeting new people. I love hearing stories. I love understanding I'm not alone in this world, finding ways to tell others they're not alone, having actual stories and people to relate stories to, so people know that they're, again, not in this world by themselves, not thinking alone. So I love that about my job. I love every part of my job.
And we love every part of you.
I love you too. I love you. I'm glad that we got into some deep shit here. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time and for doing this.
I want to let you know, Faiza, that just like Linda Shami here saying, I went through a very hard breakup and I used to watch Faiza's videos all the time. She helped me with my healing journey so much. So what I want to add to Linda here is that your vulnerability and your comedy and your advice and you putting yourself out there, it is a healing process for you, but I want you to also know that you are healing so many people on the other side, including myself, including Linda. We watch you and we resonate, and we know that we're not alone in our pain, in our struggles, in our culture, in our religion, in everything that we go through. What you're putting out there is letting us know that we are all human, especially as a woman out there, as a Muslim Arab woman out there. I really applaud you, and so many people who are watching applaud you too. So I really want you to know that we love you over here, and I really thank you for being part of this journey with us.
That made me emotional. Thank you. Thank you for being there. Thank you for allowing me to show people that you can be fucking weird and be yourself in the world. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Faiza. Sending you so much love.